There are a small number of people who are born into a gender that they don't identify with, and I will treat them, as I treat all human beings, with dignity and respect.
Will you protect women's right to single-sex spaces from any and all males, regardless of if they hold a GRC, a gender recognition certificate?
Yes is the answer to the question. It's very important, but what I will...
You're a fucking liar. Keep snorting off Macron's on a fucking train. Don't tell me what to do. Convince me what to do. But you can't convince me. You can't convince me it's real, and you can't convince me a man's a woman. And you can't convince me about all this fucking LGBT bullshit.
You won't believe what just unfolded. Andrew Tate appeared to completely lose his cool during a fiery confrontation with Keir Starmer, catching viewers totally off guard, and in the middle of the clash he claimed to expose a series of jaw-dropping allegations and behind-the-scenes stories about what's supposedly happening across the UK right now, turning the exchange into a whirlwind of chaos, drama, and twists so outrageous they make reality TV look restrained, with tensions escalating by the second, and moments so explosive that if you blink, you risk missing the split second. Everyone online is already obsessing over
me that we should open up our borders and let in a whole bunch of people we don't know. And you can't convince me having our streets run with blood because there's endless knife crime and drugs is somehow a good idea and that London couldn't be fixed. You can't convince me of your idea. So because you can't convince me, you then want to try and force me to believe them with intimidation tactics. And that's why they don't like masculinity, because men are not intimidated. I'm not scared of you and I don't believe you. So unless you convince...
If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you might think. And now ask yourself this. Have you ever watched someone completely lose control in public and still found yourself rooting for them? Because that's exactly the feeling surrounding Andrew Tate right now as he locks eyes with Keir Starmer like a man on a mission, with no fake politeness, no carefully rehearsed talking points, just raw, unfiltered intensity as he barrels straight ahead, speaking with full throttle and telling the people of the UK what he claims is really going on. Unapologetic, relentless, and utterly unconcerned with how uncomfortable it makes the room.
I'm going to oversimplify some things, but I'm going to explain what's going on because you're confused as to why our politicians seem so evil, corrupt, and inept. So let me explain it to you. The people with the money control the politics. Most of you understand that. Politics is simply money. Lobbying, media, all this crap is owned by very, very rich people, and they basically decide who gets to be.
And here's the wild part. Across the country, plenty of people are quietly cheering him on from their living rooms. Because as Andrew Tate slices through the usual political fog, many feel he's voicing thoughts they've been sitting on for years. And whether you agree with him or not, there's a sense that he's saying out loud what others won't, while Keir Starmer continues to talk about leadership and change in abstract terms. Even as day-to-day life in the UK increasingly feels less like a nation being steered with purpose and more like a badly run theme park where nothing quite works. The queues keep growing, and no one seems willing to admit who's really in charge.
Time understood they could make more money if they improve the lives and improve the quality of Western society. By improving Europe, improving America, improving the standard of living for the constituents of these countries, they could make more money. But like all things, the pendulum swings. And it got to the point where people got a little bit lazy. They wanted health care. They wanted to only work certain hours. They wanted good living conditions. And one day, the rich people woke up and realized, wait, we can make more money now by destroying Western civilization. We don't make more money by making it better because the people in the West now are very decadent. And they've started to pay a lot of attention. And they start to do these investigations. And they've started to notice how corrupt everything is.
And Andrew Tate calls it out with a blunt, no-nonsense edge that lands straight between the eyes. The kind of candor that makes you nod along almost involuntarily. Because he zeroes in on the endless red tape, the baffling rules, the glaring double standards, and the constant talking that never seems to translate into real action. And what genuinely catches people off guard isn't just the substance of what he's saying, but the sheer nerve it takes to say it so plainly, without softening the message or hiding behind careful phrasing, in a climate where most public figures seem far more concerned with staying safe than with being honest.
Prepared to sit here and debate with him, and I'm prepared to correct him on the things he's wrong about. And for you to sit and then
you supported genocide, you're going to say I'm a bad person for saying that little girls shouldn't get stabbed by people who don't belong in the UK in the first place. I don't care if you're a Muslim, I don't care if you're a Christian, black or white.
Okay.
Nobody should be turning up into the country without a passport.
I'm going to
Absolutely
respond.
Nobody.
I'm going to respond by saying this. I believe that successive Labour and Conservative governments have completely lost control of immigration to our country, both legal and illegal.
Andrew Tate isn't the type to sit back politely and dissect policy over a cup of tea. He's loud, animated, pacing, gesturing, practically shaking people by the shoulders as he tries to spell out what he sees as the obvious to an audience that refuses to listen. And somehow that raw energy works. Because people aren't laughing at him, they're laughing with him as he steamrolls straight through Keir Starmer's agenda like a bulldozer. Healthcare, taxes, energy, driving laws, nothing is off limits. Vague promises evaporate on contact. Common sense ideas suddenly sound radical. And viewers are left wondering why no one ever said any of this so plainly before, while his Twitter feed feels less like a social media account and more like a rolling national emergency alert blaring non-stop across the country.
European countries, you could argue that America was founded multiracially. You could argue that. The British people are a type of people. They're an ethnicity. They're a type of people from one place and one part of the earth. And once they lose it, they have nowhere else to go. That's all they have. And they're being replaced in real time. And their leader, Keir Starmer, is letting it happen. And if you talk about it, you go to jail. All of this is happening right now. And unless the men do something and replace him with somebody who cares, they're going to be replaced.
Now, let's talk about how Andrew Tate delivers his message, because that's half the story. He doesn't pause for effect, he creates it, raw, explosive, and completely unrehearsed. While Keir Starmer maintains his calm, intellectual tone, Tate's energy hits like an earthquake, rattling the walls and exposing every crack, and the crowd can feel it. They're not just entertained, they're alert, leaning in. Because while UK media wraps serious issues in polite headlines and careful phrasing, Tate is out there shouting, gesturing, demanding accountability like it's a viral challenge, packing every sentence with passion and just enough theatre to keep it electric, pacing the room, rolling his eyes as if to say, "Are you serious?" And people watching from home love it because it feels real, messy, imperfect. And finally, someone is slicing through the polite nonsense with a blunt honesty that borders on rude but feels refreshing in a world drowning in carefully managed words.
But if I said to you, I have to make a bet, I have to bet billions of dollars on the UK getting better or the UK getting worse. Well, if I bet on it getting better, I now have a whole bunch of work to do. I have to make it a better place. Do you have any idea how difficult that is? But if I bet on it becoming a worse place, well, that's easy. Very easy to make it worse. You just leave it as it is and bore a bunch of people who don't really like the place. Stoke civil tensions with the media. Make the prices of everything go up a little bit so people are angry and poor.
Here's the incredible part. People don't just find it funny, they find it deeply relatable. Because for years the public has quietly grumbled about confusing laws, weak leadership, soaring energy costs, and an endless loop of empty promises. And Andrew Tate doesn't merely echo those frustrations. He amplifies them, turning them into a full-blown performance that makes viewers feel like they're part of a chaotic, long overdue truth-telling moment. And every time Keir Starmer tries to step in, Tate is already 10 steps ahead, batting away excuses, dismantling vague statements, and spotlighting contradictions that many feel have been obvious for years, to the point where, if it weren't so entertaining, Starmer would look like someone turning up to a sword fight armed with a spoon, while Tate barrels on relentlessly, raw and fearless, saying the things people feel they've waited decades to hear, and the audience can sense it instantly, nodding along, sharing clips, firing off messages to friends, all with the same thought echoing in their heads. Finally, someone is saying it out loud.
Where a lot of the culture is being eroded, and it's being eroded by an Islamic immigration. And this is going to make Muslims mad when I say it, but I understand why the native Brits feel threatened by that and are unhappy with that. When you talk about crime statistics, it's difficult because you can do the same thing with black people in the United States. But black people are a part of the United States. It's seen as racist to say that they're a lower percentage of the population, but they commit more of the crime. But you can do the same with black people in the United States. But black people live here, and they're always going to live here. I like to be ultra realistic about all things. And I like the idea of Britain retaining its culture and feeling like England. A lot of the stabbing that happens in the UK isn't from Muslims particularly. It's actually from Christians from Africa. A lot of it's third worlders. A lot of it's black youths inside of London who do most of the stabbing, the majority of it.
Andrew Tate dives headfirst into the biggest pressure points: energy policy, the health crisis, crime, and the never-ending traffic chaos politicians swear they'll fix. Until suddenly it all snaps into focus, like someone has held up a mirror to the UK. Except this mirror is shouting, gesturing, wildly, and lifting an eyebrow to hammer the point home, with every statement framed as a challenge, every gesture a declaration, and every sigh feeling like a manifesto. Because Tate doesn't simply speak, he performs, and the public can't look away as he paints scenes everyone instantly recognises: exhausted staff, fed-up citizens, bureaucrats drowning in paperwork, leaving viewers at home thinking the exact same thing. Finally, someone has said it. And when he turns to taxes and energy bills, the delivery is nothing short of spectacular, sharp, relentless, and perfectly tuned to the frustrations people live with every single day.
Look at his face. That's the face of evil. Keir, when you lock me up in Belmarsh, which I know you're going to do, that's fine. That is the face of evil, sir. Look at that. That is incompetence incarnate. Look, that's not a leader. England was the greatest country in the world. I watched. It brought tears to my eyes. I watched the Battle of Cairo. I watched Nelson fight the French fleet. A YouTube video. At the Battle of Cairo, I even tweeted it in full. The heroism showed by the Brits only 200 years ago. These were the best men on the planet. A tiny island with the largest...
Starmer talks about fairness and sustainable solutions in that familiar, foggy tone that sounds reasonable but says very little. And Andrew Tate's reaction is pure theatrical disbelief. Like he's just discovered penguins secretly running the Ministry of Finance, as he tears into what he sees as nonsense, exaggerating it just enough to turn a dry political exchange into a full-blown stage show that's part outrage, part comedy, and strangely unifying. Because instead of splitting the room, he brings people together around a simple idea: call things what they are, expose failure when you see it, and never back down. A kind of boldness that feels almost revolutionary in a world of politicians who tiptoe around every word. And when he starts pulling apart the systems supposedly designed to inform the public, revealing how confusing and contradictory they really are, the audience eats it up. Because they've been thinking this for years, and now, finally, someone is shouting it with an energy and confidence no one else dared to show.
All the leaders of Western countries have failed. They're enforcing a generational failure upon their constituents. Donald Trump is the future of the Western world. Everybody knows it, and everybody needs to get in line and obey him. Donald Trump is going to annex Greenland and take Canada and take Mexico, take all of it. The American empire is back. We're done with this crap. Elon owns X. I get to tell the truth. All of your lies are being exposed, and I cannot wait for the disinfectant of sunlight to come down and exonerate my brother and I, because we have done nothing wrong since the beginning of this. The chance of me becoming UK Prime Minister within the next 10 years is somewhere near 100%, because I'm one of the most well-known people on the planet who can self-fund, and everybody understands, even if you don't like me.
Then Andrew Tate pivots into cultural commentary that's hilarious, sharp, and uncomfortably accurate, ripping into ridiculous trends, half-baked government projects, and rules that make ordinary people groan seriously, without cruelty but with brutal honesty, exposing a bureaucracy that turns daily life into an obstacle course. And the public loves it, nodding, laughing, realising they weren't imagining things. As social media erupts with clips and memes, Tate flipping the narrative to make ordinary citizens the heroes while tapping into a shared exhaustion with slow progress and empty process. Delivering what people say they want instead: results, straight talk, and accountability. Loud and clear, unapologetically real.
But I spent my teenage years in the UK. I feel very British. The British were the hardest, strongest, most resilient people on the planet. When the British were coming, only the Americans seemed to have beat them. You were scared when the British were coming. We sailed all around the world. Opioid wars in China, Battle of Cairo, Waterloo, you name it. We beat Napoleon. We did, the Brits. And now look, soy face is locking us up for having an opinion. And we're sitting there on our asses, afraid to say anything. This exact clip will be played in front of a judge when they lock me up. But it has to be said, because that is not the leader.
Starmer tries to step in and clarify, but Andrew Tate is already 3 moves ahead, twisting every point into a punchline where chaos, truth, and sarcasm collide. and the UK simply can't look away, feeling an almost guilty sense of vindication, because Tate isn't polite or politically correct. Every line drips with humour, exaggeration, and razor-sharp insight. And by the time it's over, Starmer's carefully polished image lies in pieces while the audience cheers, shares clips, and thinks the exact same thing. Finally, someone is saying out loud what we've all been feeling.